Is it a stylistic change to take out all references to previous terror threats in Benghazi?
Well, I appreciate the question again, and I think that what I was referring to was the talking points that the CIA drafted and sent around, to which one change was made.
The original CIA version included extensive discussion of the previous threats of terrorist attacks in Benghazi. Those were taken out after the CIA wrote its initial draft.
And then the CIA wrote another draft.
They feel misled.
Yes.
I've been in that position on the front row of the White House briefing, and when the guy behind the podium, whoever that press secretary is, has led you in a certain direction and said things flat out for weeks and months, you feel misled.
Yes, and the lost credibility and the damage to his relationship with those reporters is going to be something that he's going to have to deal with for some time to come.
So's the administration, Charles.
And remember, it's not about Jay Carney.
Right.
He's the spokesman for the President of the United States. Everybody is saying Jay misled and Jay did this. He's the spokesperson. Obama can't be out there explaining everything. On behalf of the President, he told these serious untruths. That's the reason he had all the trouble today. The untruth is, and they all said this, the Secretary of State said it, that the intelligence community had concluded what you heard on the Sunday talk shows. It was their product, uncontaminated by any politics. There is in one of the memos that you mentioned the Deputy National Security Advisor, Ben Rhodes. So he's writing in the heat of this when they're trying to get revisions and redactions. He writes, we must make sure that the talking points reflect all agency equities, not reflect the truth, but reflect an agency equity is a way of saying bureaucraties, reflects the interests and the political cover of all of the agencies. The point of the exercise is what he's saying. It has to reflect stuff that will be political cover for all the agencies and not about the truth. And we know now that it was a document completely ran through by the White House and the State Department, reflecting all their objections. And the bottom line is that in the end, they redacted the truth.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is briefed at 2 a.m. by the ambassador's deputy that it was, in fact, terrorism.
I briefed her on developments.
Yet 2 days later, Secretary Clinton and others blamed protesters and
an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
And we're back now with our panel for the Friday lightning round. First subject, the Gosnell trial, and the jury has completed another week. It's now 8 days of deliberations. They still have not reached a verdict.
I agree. I think what's really interesting is the poll that came out. The astonishingly small number of Americans who are following the trial closely. I think it's 70% surprised. The mainstream media gave it no coverage at all until Kirsten Powers shamed them into covering it. And that's why, of all the stories that are out there, this is the one that is the least known, and that, I think, in and of itself is scandal.
All right, another story that all of you wanted to hear about, that's the IRS today apologized to conservative groups. They had been claiming for some time they'd been singled out for scrutiny by the IRS. A lot of people said, no, that's nuts. Turns out the IRS said, yeah, if Tea Party or Patriot was in your name, we were looking.
This is a complete and total abuse of power by bureaucrats, and they're abusing the power that they have in the IRS. It's completely unacceptable.
Beyond apology, it is the most intrusive agency. It's the biggest abuse of power. And the defense that it wasn't a political action, choosing Tea Party, Patriot, is simply astonishing. Do they actually think we're a nation of 9-year-olds? It was a non-political decision.
I know a lot of 9-year-olds who wouldn't have believed it either. All right. We got less than 2 minutes.
Make it 7.
Winners and losers. Charles, less than a minute.
You're both wrong. The big winner of the week is Steve Hayes.
Who?
Steve Hayes, the very Steve Hayes is at this panel. He worked on the story. He broke the story. He was considered a little bit out there, and it turned out he had the story, and it's now unraveling. It's the work really of one person. The article he wrote last week on the emails, if it doesn't win the National Magazine Award, the award ought to be repealed.
You have 15 seconds for a loser.
15 seconds. The New York Times editorial this morning, one of the worst in the history of the Times, which is a very high bar, says a lot. It says there's nothing here, and by the way, there are a lot of attacks on embassies in the Bush years.
has been a Sunfish production.